Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Abhishek Chaturvedi, and I am going to be the host for today's webinar. Today is the seventh edition of the Storage and Handling Knowledge Series, a platform that we have created to share the knowledge that we have gained over the last many decades in the material and handling equipment domain. Today, we are going to cover a very important topic, which is about batteries and chargers. Now, batteries and chargers are the heart of any equipment, and whatever productivity or efficiency you draw out of your operations, it all depends on how well you are able to manage your battery. Now, while in the past sessions we have spoken about the various types of forklifts, various types of warehouse trucks, the general concepts, the safety, we thought it is time that we take a step deeper and try to expose our audience to certain concepts which are though a bit deep, but the way we would like to present is in a very simplistic way so that you can relate to it in your day-to-day operations and gain advantage out of that. So we would like to just request that while this webinar is on, you keep posting your questions and answers in the Q&A box, and we will take, if time permits, all the questions at the end of the session. And also at the end of the session, we will be putting a feedback link, and we would request you to please share your feedback on that link. It will help us to improve and take your suggestions in coming up with and taking newer topics in future. So let me introduce you to today's speaker. Today we have with us Mr. Amol Mane, who is leading the electrical department in our design division, and he has been instrumental in coming up with various electrical products, whether it is forklifts, reach trucks, powered pallet trucks, the entire range of warehouse trucks. The electrical part he has been leading, and he has been spearheading all those projects wherein we are able to come out with products with contemporary technology. He is an electrical engineer by profession, and he is having 19 years of rich experience in this domain. So we thought who better than Amol Mane, who can talk about this subject, batteries and chargers. With that, I would request Mr. Amol Mane to take over and take us through his knowledge about this subject. Over to you, Amol.
Abhishek, thank you. Thank you for introducing me with the so kind words. Yes, we are here for today for discussing basics of batteries and chargers used in material handling equipment. Uh, So when we are discussing these basics, we would like to specify here that we'll be having a very basic information sharing in this webinar, because all the way there are different webinars which are coming in series which will cover all the details, but this is the basics of battery and charger used in material handling equipment. Before going to a main subject, I would like to all of you to just imagine where all you have used batteries. See, batteries is the component or the device which is used in day-to-day applications, and all those you might have been remembering that where all the batteries are used, where it is used as a main energy source for a device. So you must have remembered lot of applications. I will just go through few of them, and then we'll start our discussions on the batteries and charger for material handling equipment.
Amol, can you unmute yourself, please? You're on mute.
Yeah, I think somebody is unmuting me. Hello. Yeah. So you must have imagined a lot of applications. Here are very few. You must have imagined that the batteries used in the torch, radios, toys, and watches. What are all those batteries are? Yes, these are the main energy source for these devices. And when we say what are these? These are the primary batteries or primary cells. You must have now understood, recollected all these round cylindrical cells which we use in day-to-day activities are all primary cells. Why these are called primary cells? Because these are not rechargeable. You can use it once and then throw it off. So these are the primary cells. You must have also imagined some other applications where you will just recollect again automotive, telecom towers, USP, UPS systems, and forklifts. Yes, what are these batteries? Yes, these are the batteries which we call as a secondary batteries. Why these are called the secondary batteries? Because these batteries can be discharged and again can be charged with a special device called as a charger. So these batteries are definitely giving a as a main source of power for all these applications, and all these applications are running with this power. We are focusing on a forklift. We want to share a knowledge about what batteries are being used in the forklift. Before going to the forklift batteries, let me share you about the electrical equipment. Those are gaining popularity nowadays. And the main reason for the popularity that we are gaining for the electrical equipment is environment friendly electrical equipments. See, nowadays lot of issues are happening in the environment because of the pollution, and all these pollutions are coming from one or other objects. In that, battery is the non-polluted components. Emission free operations in the warehouses. This is the major thing which customers are looking into as an advantage, and the popularity of electrical equipment is increasing. Another one is the higher efficiency. Yes, always we have to check for a device which is having a higher efficiency, which will save your energy and in terms money. Finally, the objective is to reduce the overall total cost of ownership, wherein the higher efficiency devices will help you to increase that. For that reason, electrical equipments are getting a really high popularity. Fast, fast pace of a development. Yes, lot of electrical equipments are coming out with the as good as the performance which is being offered by a IC engine equipment is now being offered by electric equipment. So year by year, all these equipments are getting better and better. So all these electrical equipments which are sourced by a battery, and what is that battery? We have just learned that is a secondary battery. So here we will understand what is the electrical equipment portfolio which is being used in the market, in the industry, wherein for different applications. So electrical equipments versus the counterbalancing forklift. These are the machines which are ranging from 1 ton to 5 ton capacity. There are also the forklifts, also electrical forklifts which are in the range of 8 ton and about 10 ton, about 10 to 12 ton also. But at this instant, we will be talking about forklifts which are till 3 ton capacity. What are the voltage range we are using these batteries in these equipments? These are 48 volt, 72 volt, and 80 volt. Ampere or capacity of these batteries is right from 400 to 700. Even we are reaching to 900 or 1000 ampere hour in these equipments. Second range of equipment is a warehousing trucks, reach trucks, stackers, power pallets, tow trucks, platform trucks. All these trucks are consuming power from a battery which is rated at 24 volt and 48 volt. The capacity is being used from 200 to 900 Ah. There are certain adjacencies equipment which are running on the electric on the secondary batteries, and those are cleaning equipments and access equipments. There are there are many other equipments which are running on battery. It's very important to learn about battery. What are these batteries? How what is the how these batteries are working? It's very important to understand. So this webinar will help you to understand that at certain level, but definitely you can understand all these things from the various sources of knowledge which can give you about how these batteries are working. Secondary batteries are mainly having a different types of batteries. The lead acid battery is one of the secondary battery, which is again divided into its type based on the application. First is the telecom battery, which is used in the telecom towers. There is a traction battery, which is used in the forklift, in the automobile, and also in the railways. Then there are other batteries like automotive batteries. These automotive batteries are just used for a starting purpose, starting, lighting, and ignition purpose. Traction batteries are then divided into two different parts or two different types. One is the vented plug battery, and the another is the sealed plug battery. Sealed plug batteries are AGM batteries and gel batteries depending on the how electrolyte has been sealed inside the battery. What are other types? So the voltage what this lead acid battery is generating, it is 2 volt per cell. Now it is the cell I am saying because cell and battery are used in the anatomy, or we can say that cells are making battery. We'll have all those slides in the further presentation. Another battery which is being used most of time, these nickel batteries are used in the railway application. Those are nickel cadmium and nickel metal hydride. And these are also vented and sealed batteries you can manufacture. These batteries are coming with a 1.2 volt per cell. Lithium ion battery is the another secondary battery which is coming into different chemistries. The most popular chemistry is the LFP, is lithium iron phosphate and nickel manganese cobalt. So these are the batteries which are coming into lithium ion batteries. These batteries are coming with a different voltage range, right from 3.2 to 3.6 volt, depending on the chemistry of this battery. Today's webinar is actually focused on the vented traction lead acid battery, which is called PZS and PZB in the different standards. So what is the basic principle of lead acid battery, PZS and PZB? This will be very important to you to understand this principle, because once we understand this, we'll be taking more care of our batteries to enhance its life and also to make it more usable, and its useful life will be increased. So let us understand what is happening at a positive electrode. What is a positive electrode? See, cells are made up of electrodes, electrolyte, and then the connecting wires around it. So positive electrode is made up of a lead oxide, which is dipped into a H2SO4. So before going into these equations, we'll directly run to a final equation and we'll have a discussion on the image which has been displayed over here. So this is the overall cell reaction where H2SO4 gets splitted into hydrogen ions and SO4 ions, sulfate ions. Hydrogen ions and sulfate ions are there in the electrolyte. The moment you apply the load across these electrodes, these ions will get splitted and they will do their activities as shown in the figure. So while discharging, H2SO4 will break into 4 hydrogen ions. So H2SO4 has been broken into 2 hydrogen ions and 2 sulfate ions. Hydrogen ion is going to PbO2. This is the lead oxide cathode, which is a positive electrode. This is the negative electrode, which is made up of a pure lead and lead oxide. So lead oxide is getting reacted with the H2 hydrogen ions, and it is releasing a water molecule out, and then it is also reacting with the lead ion, and the PbSO4 is the element which is derived. So lead oxide is getting deposited on the positive, and in the same fashion, these sulfate ions react with the pure lead on the anode, and the PbSO4. This is the sulfuric lead sulfate which is deposited on the negative. And all these things are happening because electrons are passing from negative to positive. Electrons are coming from this lead, and it is going to the positive, and then it is reacting with the lead oxide and hydrogen molecule, and the lead sulfates are forming. In the charging cycle also the same but equal, totally different, opposite reaction takes place, wherein when the battery is applied by the external power supply, the electrons are released from the positive electrode, and electrons are received by the negative electrons. So while these electrons are passing through, the lead sulfate PbSO4 get dissolved into H2SO4 and lead oxide, and this lead sulfate is getting dissolved into H2SO4 and lead, and that get deposited on the respective electrodes. So that is called a charging process. Let us see this process through a video, which will give you a more insight about how it is working. I hope you must have understood that how the chemical reactions are taking place, and how the electrodes are getting converted into from lead oxide to lead sulfate, and on the negative plate, lead is getting converted into lead sulfate. So always when the battery is discharged, lot of lead sulfate is deposited on the negative and positive plates. This is this is not a hard material. This is a soft material, but it will remain soft for a very short while or a very small uh, time. If you don't discharge the battery immediately after discharge, then this deposit will become hard, and it will be difficult to dissolve it into a sulfuric acid. So it is very important that every discharged battery has to be charged immediately, so that your battery status should be always charged, and the plates, positive plates should be always lead oxide, and the negative plates should be always lead. Here let us see more details about negative plates and the positive plates which are there in the battery. When we are saying a negative plate, it is made up of a lead oxide which has been pasted on a grid of lead alloy. Now what is this lead alloy? This is made up of material added into a lead, maybe antimony or calcium. So there are advantages and disadvantages of using antimony and calcium to make a grid of lead alloy. Definitely, this has been made because to increase the strength of this base, because this is going to hang up with the top bus which is connecting to the terminal of the battery. This is the terminal of the battery. These are the negative plates. These are the positive plates. So negative plates are connected together with a small lid. So it is the plate is hanging with the lid. So it is very important that the complete plate should have a sufficient strength to remain for its complete life. The active material which has been used on the negative plates is the sponge lead, which is pasted on the grid with a particular process. What is the role of a negative plate? As you have seen, it is supplies electron to external circuit during discharge. So the negative plates are supplying electrons, and those are being accepted by positive plates, and hence the reactions are happening, and the energy can be used for the external load. What is a positive plate? This is the positive plate which is having the spines. Spines are then covered by a gauntlet. Gauntlet is filled by an active base material, and then all plates are connected to each other at the top with a bus. And then all buses are connected, the bus is connected to a terminal. This is the positive terminal, this is the negative terminal. So here, what is the base of for this electrode? Is a series of vertical spines connected to a common bus, and this is the lead alloy again. So lead alloy made up of by adding antimony or calcium. Active material in this positive plate is the lead oxide, held in a porous non-conductive tubes which is called as gauntlet. This is the gauntlet which is the porous non-conductive tube, and within that tube this lead oxide is filled. What is the role of a positive plate? It accepts electron when the external circuit during discharge. So this will accept electrons, this will release electrons when it is discharging, and while charging this will accept electron. A negative plate will accept electron, and positive plate will release electrons. There are the separator in between positive and negative electrodes. These separators are made up of a porous plastic or a glass fiber, as it is the design of the battery. Electrically isolated and the positive negative electrodes, but allow ion transfer. So it is allowing to ion SO4 and hydrogen ions to pass through these separators, but it will not allow these electrons to pass. So electrons will always pass through external circuit. Ions will pass through the separator, electrons will pass through external circuit. When we do the assembly of these cells, when we see the assembly of the cell, there is a container in which the complete assembly of a positive and negative plates is inserted, and then it is covered by a lid. The terminals which are coming out are connected by the terminal, and the center hole which is there for adding the electrolyte into the battery is covered by a vent plug. So vent plug is made up of a plastic. It is designed to release gases and to add water. So whenever you are charging a battery, gases get released through this vent plug. But at time, if you are facing issues with the battery that while charging it is getting overheated, better to open this lid and allow this hot air to pass out, so that the cell temperature will slightly reduce. intercell connectors. These are of two types. One is the weld-on type or the bolt-on type. In the weld-on type, it is made up of a lead, and in the bolt-on type, it is made up of a copper. It is a copper cable. What is the role of this connector in the battery? This is used to connect series of cells to make different voltages of different voltage batteries. So 24-volt battery, 48-volt battery, and 80-volt battery, whatever it is as per the application. These are the cell. This is the cell lid, and this is the cell container made up of a plastic. And the main role of this is to enclose electrodes and electrolyte. Electrolyte is within this container, and this lid is sealed on this container from all sides, so that there should not be leakage of electrolyte. Electrolyte is filled inside this container, and electrolyte material is the dilute sulfuric acid. 1/3 is the sulfuric acid, and 2/3 is the distilled water. It is diluted by adding a distilled water into that. Role of electrolyte is to complete internal circuit in the battery by supplying ions to the positive and negative electrons. Positive and negative electrodes are getting electrons from the external circuit, but the ions they are getting through this electrolyte. So electrolyte is playing a very important role in the battery reactions. Now we should look into how to identify the right battery ratings for our application. So to see the battery ratings, there are two ratings which are coming along with the battery, and that is the voltage and capacity. Let us see what is voltage. Voltage is the potential difference across the battery, and which is rated, the equipment is rated for that voltage. So there are range of voltages which are coming in our material handling application. It is 24-volt to 80-volt range. In the automotive industries or in the automobiles, this voltage range reaches to 400 volt. But in material handling equipment, it has been controlled at 80 volt, because there are certain precautionary issues which are needed to be taken care. So 80 volt is the maximum voltage which has been applied in the material handling equipment. This 80 volt is generated by connecting 2 volt cells in series. So for getting a 24 volt cell or battery, you need to connect 12 cells in series. For 48 volt battery, 24 cells in series. Capacity of a battery is determined, or it is mentioned in the ampere hour rating of a battery, and it is defined in a C5 rating. What is the C5 rating? Always the battery capacity and the cell capacity is equal. Whatever is the cell capacity will be the final battery capacity, but the battery voltage will be depending on the cells connected in series in the multiple of 2 volt. What is the C5 rating? C5 rating is the capacity of a battery to provide or supply 1/5 ampere current of its capacity rating, which is called as the ideal discharge current for that battery. 1/5 of the capacity rating. Let us take an example to understand this. 500 ampere of battery, if it is discharged at 100 ampere, which is the 1/5 of 500 Ah rating, 100 ampere, then it will take 5 hours to reach 0% depth of discharge. So if you are using this battery and discharging it at 100 ampere current, then you will take 5 hours to discharge this battery to 0%. If you use it at 50 amperes, it will take 10 hours to discharge. And if you are using it at 25 amperes, then you will take 20 hours to discharge this battery. So the discharge rate of the battery will depend on the discharge current rate of the battery. But this battery is ideal to use at 1/5 of the capacity. There are certain battery discharge characteristics. It is lead acid battery is allowed to discharge only till 80% depth of discharge. It is because we have to maintain its reactions to continue. If we reach to 0% depth of discharge, the reactions become irreversible and battery will never get charged again. So if you want to gain charge that battery, it is required to go through a process of formation, and which is not easily possible at the sites. So better to avoid discharging the battery to 0%, which is called as a deep discharge state. So always we have to maintain the battery at 80% depth of discharge. Battery capacity will reduce if you discharge this battery at a higher currents. The idle current is 1/5, but if you discharge this battery at a higher currents, for example, if you are discharging at 30%, 40%, or 50% of the current, the actual ampere hour capacity of the battery will drop. You will not get to use, you will be not allowed to use the complete capacity of a battery. So better to go with the rate idle current which has been specified by a battery manufacturer, and it is 1/5 of the capacity. Battery backup time, as I've told earlier, that battery backup time is in actual application depends on average discharge current. If your average discharge current is lower, your battery backup time will be higher. If you increase that average current, average discharge current, then battery backup time will reduce. Also, battery backup time will depend on the state of health of the battery. If the state of health of the battery is not good, you will not able to take out a complete 80% of the capacity from the battery. So it is always, you have to ensure that the state of health of the battery is maintained by doing a proper maintenance. So what these are the different batteries which are being used in the material handling application: 24 volt, 36 volt, 48 volt, and 80 volt. And all these batteries are manufactured with the cells connected in series, and each cell is having a 2 volt. 24 volt battery is connected with the 12 cells, 36 volt battery is 18 cells, 48 volt battery is 24 volt, and 80 volt battery is the 40 cells. Sorry, 48 volt battery is the 24 cells, and 48 volt battery is 40 cells. Now let us understand the role of a battery in the forklift, electrical forklift. What the battery is playing role in the electrical forklift. So as we know, this is the battery is going to supply a DC power to our two controllers which are there in the equipment. One controller is for the traction application and another controller is for the pump application. And these controllers are driving our traction system or the traction motor and pump motors. So mainly the battery is supplying a power to both traction application and the hydraulic application, and traction functions and the hydraulic functions, and both are very important in terms of the equipment application. So we can say that the battery is the main source of energy. So it should be always should have maintained in its good state of health. Then only we can derive whatever we want to functions, traction and hydraulics to perform. So to get a best perform from these motors, we need to have a battery at its good state of health. It is also said that enhancing the battery life, or we have experienced that if you enhance the battery life, you will be having a lot of savings in your total operational cost. So how to increase this battery life and all those things, and to maintain the good state of health of the battery, it all depends on how you are maintaining the battery. So there are certain golden rules which are which will help you to maintain the battery or to expand the battery life. So here I am presenting you those golden rules, and those are not only golden rules. These are not only golden rules, but there are a lot of many others which can be discussed in detail, but not in this webinar, because this is the time limited webinar, so we have to complete it within a given time. So we'll be going through 9 golden rules which will help you to enhance battery lifespan. So to The first rule what we are telling is that avoid deep discharge. We have discussed about this in the last slide. We have to ensure that battery should not be deep discharge. It should not go below 20% depth of discharge. And how you can manage this? So you need to activate a system on a device which will have lift lockout function at 20% depth of discharge. So your equipment should go into a low operating mode and it should lock out the lifting function and make make the operator to get the equipment or to get the battery charged and not to use beyond these limits. So this is the function which will help operator to understand that battery has gone to a 20% depth of discharge and now it should not be used and he has to take it back to a charging station. So this is the very important rule that you should not allow your operators to use the truck in the lift lockout function. The second golden rule is never store the battery in discharge stage. We have learned what is the discharge state of the battery. In the discharge state, battery is always having electrodes covered with the lead phosphate. Lead phosphate is the material which is soft in nature for initial certain hours, but later on it becomes very hard. And once it becomes hard, it will not allow to complete the chemical reaction, reverse chemical reaction in the charging. So it is very important that batteries are never to be stored in a discharge state. So how are you going to do this? We suggest that after every discharge cycle, battery should be kept on charging. You have to ensure that battery is completely charged. Equalizing charge every fortnight. It is a very important part of the forklift of battery, which has been made up of multiple cells connected in series. There are 24 cells in the 48-volt battery. Just imagine from these 24 cells, if there are a couple of cells, maybe 2 or 3 cells, which are not performing to its mark. If the voltage is not being raised to the 2 volt and above that while it is charging and it is remaining below, then those cells will always get affected while discharged. Because while discharging, these cells will not having sufficient capacity to discharge and they will go into a deep discharge stage, which we have saw in a golden rule number 1. So deep discharge state is not allowed. So what we have to do, those couple of cells should be charged so that those will attain the level of other cells. And to make that cells to attain the other cell level, you have to put the battery on the equalizing charge. And it is recommended that every fortnight these batteries are to be put on equalizing charge. So what we are suggesting is that it is better to make a schedule and we have to follow it very rigorously. The schedule of equalizing should not be missed. You have to always follow that and you have to always keep a monitor on that, see whether the equalizing charging is taking place or not. Maintain electrolyte level. This is another important part in the lead acid battery. If the electrolyte levels are not maintained to its recommended level, then the electrodes are get exposed to external environment. And when the electrodes are getting exposed to the external environment, there is a chance of getting corrosion. And once the electrodes start corroding, the chemical reaction in the electrodes will not happen and the battery cells will get damaged. So it is very important that electrolyte level has to be maintained. The electrolyte level is also needed to be maintained to complete the electrolyte chemical reaction within the cell. If H2O or water is not available, then your battery will not perform up to the mark. So it is always required that electrolyte level should be maintained. we suggest to use a level indicator on a battery. If this level indicator will indicate if the battery electrolyte level has gone below dangerous level. And if you can observe this, you can fill it by adding a water. Another process what we can do is that we can put a autofill system on these batteries, which will allow you to fill the water in a short duration. So it will be very easy for operator to add electrolyte when as and when it is required. Maintain battery top clean and dry. It is always required, or otherwise there will be a leakage voltage which is running from positive to negative. So we suggest that periodic cleaning and washing has to be followed. We suggest to use autofill system for water filling. This will ensure that water or electrolyte will not spill out of the battery, and it will be not lying on the battery top, which can cause the internal leakage voltage. Avoid opportunity charging with a standard charger. This is another golden rule wherein you should not allow operator to use the battery to get charge in the opportunity, because standard chargers are not made for the opportunity charges. What we suggest that discontinue this practice or select an appropriate charger for opportunity charging. Use correct charger rating. This is a very important part in the battery, that whatever is the battery rating, use the charger accordingly, so that there should not be any malfunctioning of a charging, and the battery does not go into some wrong conditions or any wrong conditions. It's always important that whenever the battery is being charged or discharged, ensure that the battery is cool. Because if the battery is warm, then there is a chances that the battery temperature will rise beyond its limit, and it will cause or impact to the battery performance, and it will reduce the lifespan of the battery. So always ensure that there should be a sufficient time number of there are sufficient number of batteries, so that you can maintain 20 minutes of cooling time in between charge and discharge. Maintain charge discharge record. So this is very important to maintain this record, because this can be used if the battery is not performing as per the requirement. Then you can go through these records and identify what has gone wrong with the battery, because of which this is not performing. If those maintained record are offered to a technician or the engineer, battery engineer, then they can help you to understand what has gone wrong with the battery and how it has to be rectified. And this rectification will help you to ensure that battery lifespan can be increased. So all these golden rules are not only golden rules, there are others, but these are very important, which are to be followed by end user. When we have said that the battery has to be charged with the correct charger, then what do you mean by a correct charger? Then here are the certain specifications of the charger which are recommended and should be followed by the end user. Chargers should have a controlled current charging profile. See, it is very important to have a current charging profile, controlled current charging profile, because this is very gentle on the battery and extends its battery life. Because if you have a charging done in a very gentle way, batteries will not get a over temperature. Those will get charged in the nominal temperatures, and because of which the life will get extended. Always the battery charger should have auto cutoff when the battery is 100% charged. This will help not to overcharge the battery. Always overcharging battery will create lot of heat, lot of fumes, and there are a lot of dangers in overcharging the battery. There is a chance that the battery can even can create some fumes which are not so good for the health of human being. So it is better to cut off the charger when the battery is 100% charged. Battery should have a provision for equalizing. This is a very important part. What we have seen in the earlier slides, that batteries are required to be charged in equalized every fortnight. So please ensure that the batteries charger should have a equalizing facility. The charger should display voltage, current, and ampere hour that has been taken out from the have been put back into a battery, and fault status. These all things will be very important for you for troubleshooting and for preventive maintenance. This equipment, battery charger should be equipped with a dV by dt charge status evaluation. So this is certain thing which will help a charger to understand what is the charge status of the battery. And if once it is getting 100% charge, then definitely it will get disconnected, as we said in the point number 2. So it is very important to have a dV by dt, which will tell the charger whether the battery is fully charged or discharged. All these points can be discussed in a very detailed manner, but it is again can be covered in the next webinars. Here we are giving you just an overview how these batteries and chargers are working. So there is another thing, that this charger should have a protection against reverse battery potential, overcurrent, and short circuit. This will help your batteries. These batteries are connected with are supplied with the AC 3-phase voltage, and those are the 380 volt AC to 450 volt AC, which is the standard range of supply in India. After knowing about the chargers, let us understand how these battery chargers are working. Not in the detail how the internal components are working, but we will discuss about the charging characteristics. And there are the different charging characteristics which have been identified by different standards, and those are saying that these battery charging characteristics are useful for lead acid battery. The very first battery charge characteristics is the single stage charger. This is the charger which is being used for 11 to 12 hours charging time. The battery to be charged from 80% depth of discharge to 100% state of charge, it will take 11 to 12 hours. If you see, the battery charge characteristics is plotted on a x and y axis, wherein there is a voltage and time. So this is the voltage and current, and this is the time. So the starting current of the charger, once you charge the battery, once you connect the battery, 80% discharge battery, connect to the charger, it will get applied by a current of 12 to 16 ampere per 100 ampere hour. And this current will go on tapering to certain value, which is around 6 to 8 ampere per 100 ampere hour at a gassing point. Let me tell you, there is a time which is from 0 hours to a gassing time or a gassing state. It is called the main charging time. And this is the charging time within which battery will get 80% charge. And the next final charge is happening beyond the gassing point or the gassing voltage, and it will take at a very low current, and which is about 3 to 4 ampere per 100 ampere hour. So you can see here, the initial charging will take fast. 80% of the battery is charged at this point, and the remaining 20% has been charged in the next remaining time. So if you are charging this battery within 6 to 7 hours to 80% at this point, another 4 to 5 hours will take for the final charge, and hence it will take 11 to 12 hours for charging time. So this is called as a WA characteristics, which is again called as a taper current characteristics for flooded batteries or vented batteries. This is the second charge characteristics, which is a double stage charger. In double stage charger, the current which has been applied to the battery while starting in the starting stage is about 20 to 30 amperes per 100 ampere hour. It is defined by the battery manufacturers, and in India we specify it between 18 to 20 amperes, because this will generate lot of heat into a battery, and we don't want, in our tropical conditions in India, this heat should get accumulated into a battery and to reduce the span of the life lifespan of the battery. So we recommend that battery should be charged about 18 to 20% in this double rate, and this battery will get charged in 8 to 9 hours charging time. Again, at the gassing point where the battery has been full as 80% charged, there the second step comes in picture. Here there was no second step, it was tapering as at its own. But here by electronics, by using an electronic, you will taper down the current and the value is maintained at 8 ampere per 100 ampere hour, and at the end 4 ampere per 100 ampere hour. It is a 4%, 8% and 20%. So these current levels are maintained in the characteristic so that the battery will perform to its optimum. It will give you a desired life of the battery. Same way, there is a third cycle which is a constant current charger. Here current was tapering. Here the current will remain constant. The starting current will be 14 to 20% and the end current will be 5%. In the main charging time will be 80% battery will charge, and in the final charge then it will come to 100%. This is the again 8 hours charging time. There is a constant current charger with the different current settings. Those are 12 to 14%. This will take 11 hours to charge the battery from 80% to 100% state of charge. Here there are certain precautions that we have to take care while charging, not only charging the batteries, but also while handling the batteries. We suggest that it will be better that if the battery maintenance is carried by a trained personnel. It is very important because this is hazardous component and we don't want that any accident to take place. So it is better to manage this battery maintenance or charging procedure by a trained personnel. Ensure that the vent plugs are clear. The vent plugs, what we saw on the battery, those are having the openings which will allow gas to come out of the battery while charging. If those vents are not open, then the charge will get accumulated into a battery, and that can affect the battery life, and at time it can explode. So better that vent plugs are to be checked periodically. We always recommend that whoever is handling this battery, whether and it should be a trained personnel, but that trained personnel should always use personal protecting equipments during battery maintenance. It is very important because we are using acid and lead into a battery. Acid can cause injuries to human being, and lead is not good for the human health. So it is always preferred that you should use the recommended PPE when you are maintaining battery. Always ensure that there are the extinguishers very close to the battery charging room, and those are always in the good condition. It should be dry chemical or COT or foam type of fire extinguishers which should be placed at an easy reach. Always include some neutralizing agents nearby in the battery charging area, like baking soda, soda ash, or this is used to neutralize the split acid. By any accident, if the electrolyte gets splitted out, so please use this neutralizing agent to neutralize the acid. Ensure cables are in a good condition. Always, this is very important part because we are working with at a very high power. So if your electric cables are not in a good condition and those are open, the copper is a bare open, then it can cause a short circuit and it can cause a fire. So let us focus on keeping ensuring that the working cables are always in the good working condition. It's not allowed or it is prohibited to have open flames and mobile phones or smoking near the charging area. So never use open flames near the charging areas, as during charging hydrogen gas is emitted. That hydrogen gas can create an explosion if it is accumulated at certain points in the charging area. Do not charge battery in a freezer condition. This will make the battery will go into a wrong status. Battery will never get charged in the freezer condition. So go to a normal condition and then use it. And also do not charge battery in the high temperatures. Above 49 degrees centigrade, battery life will deteriorate. So ensure that the battery temperature is not increasing and it is not even on the lower side. Battery charging area should be always ventilated. As we have said, that battery is emitting this hydrogen gases, and hydrogen gases are explosive in nature. So it has to be released into an open area. So please ensure that the battery charging areas are well ventilated, and there is no any accumulating area where the hydrogen gas can get accumulated. Battery should be allowed to cool before charge and discharge. We have discussed about this point, and it's very important that you should keep your battery in the cool for cooling for at least 20 minutes before you charge and discharge the battery. Handle this battery with due care, because these batteries are heavy and bulky, so it will create a lot of we need to have proper devices to use this to handle these batteries. So please check with your suppliers that what are the equipments to be used to handle these batteries. After understanding all these things about battery and charger, now I think we need to understand what are the advantages that lead acid batteries is giving to material handling application, and also there are certain limitations which are causing which are not allowing these batteries to use in certain applications. We know that these applications are very few, but there are certain limitations these lead acid batteries are having. And even you must have been experiencing these limitations in the lead acid batteries. The first most advantage of the lead acid battery is that it is inexpensive. The overall sources of energy for storage energy, we have seen that lead acid chemistry or the lead acid batteries are inexpensive. Those you can get it at a lowest prices as compared to any other battery prices. So it is good for a material handling equipment. This is a 160-year-old technology. It has been matured. It has been it is considered as the most reliable and well understood technology. At this point of time, this is the only technology which is having this much of experience. So it is very much useful for us to use this mature and reliable technology on the material handling equipment. These are the robust batteries. This will not get affected by any external impacts, but definitely the big impacts will really cause some impact on the battery. But small impacts which are coming while handling, or the impacts which are coming while we are using the equipment, those impacts can be managed by this battery. These are the robust batteries. Low discharge. The self-discharge of this battery is very low. It's a 3 to 4% per month. If you want to store the battery, it is recommended to store the battery in a charged condition, so that at least for 3 to 4 months, your battery level will not go beyond lesser than 90%. So there will be no chance of lead sulfate deposit on positive and negative plates. So definitely this is the very advantageous point for the lead acid batteries. Capable of high discharge rates. Batteries can discharge of very high currents. If you require to discharge this battery at a 1C rate, what do you mean by a 1C rate? It is the whatever ampere hour rating of the battery, you can take same amount of current from the battery. If the battery is 500 Ah rated, you can discharge 500 amperes from that battery. And at time, if it is required, you can discharge current of 2C, 3C and 4C also. But it will reduce the life of the battery. But it will help you to solve the purpose in that particular application. So capacity of a high discharge rate is a very important feature of this lead acid battery. So we have understood that till date, lead acid battery is the best solution for a majority of metal handling applications, and it will continue for next couple of decades. Lead acid battery will remain as a main source of energy for material handling equipment because of its lesser density and inexpensive and reliability. So we should always rely on this battery technology. There are certain limitations which are coming up on these batteries. These batteries are low energy density, which is about 30 to 40 watt hour per kg, because of which these are very heavy and bulky. But let me say that this is the limitation in terms of other battery, if you consider or compare it with other battery technologies. But this is a very important and advantage for a material handling equipment, because this is balancing a weight at the rear end of the forklift, which is required in the counterbalancing. So this is an advantage. We are not saying this is a limitation for a material handling equipment. This requires maintenance, and the routine maintenance which we need to take has to be carried out on this battery. So we need to spare a manpower on maintenance of the battery. If these batteries are not maintained, its lifespan will reduce, and you will not get those desired cycles which are specified by a manufacturer. There is a low Coulombic energy efficiency, means whatever you are charging into a battery is not available to discharge. What is available is the 70% which is available for discharge. So while putting into a battery, there is a charge factor at which you are putting energy into a battery, and that is the 1.2 charge factor is used for the lead acid battery. So 20% energy is put more into a battery, and we are withdrawing a battery to 80% depth of discharge. So a total 30 to 40% of the energy is not being used on this from the battery. So the overall efficiency of the battery is 70%. Cannot be stored in a discharge condition. Yes, definitely. This battery are never to be stored in the discharge condition, or you will be losing a lot of lifespan of the battery, and the battery may not perform even after charging after long duration of the storage in the discharge condition. So that is the limitation of this battery. Battery can give you a life cycle of 1000 to 1500 cycles of charge discharge. But there are some examples, means batteries have given a much bigger, much higher charge discharge cycles. But the recommended or the manufacturer is giving the battery life as a 1000 to 1500 cycles. So we are considering this as a limitation because there are other technologies which are specifying that the battery can last till 5000 or 10,000 cycles. So here we need to consider that this limitation has to be considered as a serious in the terms of application. Lead acid batteries are not environment friendly. These are because carrying a lead and sulfuric acid, and both are not good for the environment and for the human being. Lead is not good for the human being because if it get deposited or it goes into a ground, it gets dissolved into a ground, then it will come into a water, and it is very harmful for the human being if it go into a human body. Sulfuric acid can cause burns. It is not good to manage the sulfuric acid openly. So it is very difficult to have to maintain the batteries, lead acid batteries. So these are certain limitations which are causing these batteries are to be regarding the environmental unfriendly. We need to say here regarding the disposal of a battery, how these batteries are to be disposed. This is a very important part in the lead acid battery. There are certain government regulations which are being specified by the government that these batteries are to be disposed in a particular given procedure, and that SOP has been defined and said that batteries are to be sent to a known or registered smelters, and those smelters will do needful with the end of life battery after the end of life of these batteries. These batteries are recovered and those can be recycled. So it is an advantage that lead acid battery can be recycled from 90 to its 90%. I mean 90% components of the lead acid battery can be recycled. And this recycle process has been has been mentioned into a regulations, government regulations, and we have to follow those regulations when we are disposing these batteries. These batteries are not able to be charged fast, and this is a very limit. This limitation is a very not so good for for the companies who are running their equipments 2 shift, 3 shift, in the continuous manner. So the batteries are not getting charged in 8 to 11 getting charged in 8 to 11 hours. So it is required to maintain more batteries for per equipment, and that is not so good for the end user. So there are certain things which we have to take care that these batteries will get charged in the shorter time, maybe 6 hours. But at this time, we can say that 8 to 11 hour charging time is the limitation for a lead acid battery. And that is, and here I would like to complete my presentation, and would like to hand over it to Abhishek for question answer session on this webinar.
Okay, thank you so much, Amol. I think that was a very interesting and a very insightful session. And battery and charger being such a huge subject, it is certainly very difficult to cover in a short span of 1 hour. But I think you were able to cover the major points which impact the users of battery, and I think there will be good takeaways from this session. So thank you so much. We had a very participative audience, Amol, and we are flooded with many questions. So yeah, we have a paucity of time also, so we'll try to cover as many questions as possible, and whichever we are not able to answer, we'll try to reach out to the individual people in case they have put across their name and contact details, and we'll try to answer them over email or over phone in we are not able to cover it in this session. So Amol, I would like to ask you the first question that has come up. I think you have covered this in one of your slides, but one of the participants have asked how frequently is equalizing charge required? That is the question that we have. So if you could just help in answering this question. How frequently is an equalizing charge required?
Thank you, Abhishek. So this is a good question because how the equalizing charging has to be done and how frequently it is required to be done. So it is recommended by a battery manufacturer, and also the chemistry is saying that you should do the equalizing in every 15 days. If you can do it in every weekly basis, it will be the best thing, but at least you have to do it in the 15 days.
Okay, yeah. So I think that's a good guideline, good thumb rule for users to follow. The second question which is come in is another very interesting question. One of the audiences asked that if we change one of the weak cell of say a restruck battery with a new cell, will it impact the performance of other cells also? That is the question. If we replace one cell, will it impact the other cell performance?
Yes. So again, this is the second good question, because if you see that all the cells are connected in series, and if one of the cell is going to be replaced, then it is very important to check at what point of time these cells are being replaced. If suppose if you have covered only 200 or 300 cycles of the battery, then all cells are in the good condition and one of the cell has gone wrong. So in that condition, it is good to replace the cell and use the battery as it is. But if you have already crossed above 500 or 600 cycles, and in that condition, if the battery cell has gone off and you are replacing the cell, then just imagine then in the 24 cell battery, that is the 48-volt battery, there are 24 cells. 23 cells are in not so good condition because they have already covered their half-life, and you are putting a 24th cell which is in a good condition. So just imagine how this good condition cell will behave in these all bad cells. So it will get overloaded while charging and discharging, and there can be an impact on other cells. So better, if the cell has gone wrong, you have to check why the cells are getting wrong. And if it is earlier stage of the battery, you please replace the cells and you can use the battery. In the latter stage of the battery, please keep an eye on the replaced cell, that whether it is creating any impact to the whole battery.
Right. So, Amol, there is a follow-up question to the first answer that you gave about equalizing charge. The question is, how long should you charge a battery in equalizing mode? So, I
Good.
think people had that query that, okay, 7 days, but how long?
Yeah. So it is always recommended, means what we recommend is that on the holiday, where weekly holiday, you have to put it in on the equalizing charge, and the equalizing charge should last for about 12 to 13 hours. And your charger should have a provision that after 12 to 13 hours, if it is going off, then it is not a problem. And equalizing charge is always has to be done after battery getting fully charged. So what I'm saying is that if you are putting the battery on Saturday night, and in the Saturday night battery has got fully charged, and on the Sunday morning it has gone into equalizing, then by Sunday evening the equalizing will complete, and on Monday morning you will be having a very fresh battery.
Okay, yeah, that's
So
a very
always equalizing has to
useful
be
tip.
carried after full battery charge.
Right, so that's a very useful tip. Again, this question is something that has been covered in your presentation, but I think it will be helping to reiterate this point. What is the recommended minimum cooling period of the battery after charging? You have covered this, but still one of the audience wants to
Yes.
know.
So recommended is 20 minutes, but always it has to be followed that how much hot your battery has gone while usage, means while in the discharging condition or while in the charging condition. So you have to ensure that your battery come to a normal temperature before you put it on the next process. So if the battery has gone to a 30-35 degree, then it will not take much time to reach to its normal temperature, and you can keep it can put the battery on the charge cycle. And while charging also, if you are using a very good chargers, then those chargers are also not increasing the battery temperature to its higher limits. It is a nominal temperature rise. So again, after charging, if you put the battery for another 20 minutes in the idle condition, battery will come to its normal temperature, and you can use the battery for your normal application.
Okay, yeah, that's right. So the next question which has come in is for the charging station or the charging room. So people want to know what are the basic points to be kept in mind while designing a charging station or a charging room.
Good question. So I have covered this part in my presentation, but definitely I will summarize those points. It is very important that your charging station should be equipped, should be well ventilated. First is the well ventilation. It has to be ventilated. It should have a ventilation, because whatever hydrogen gases has been emitted from the battery while charging should get released to the environment. So it is important to have a ventilated battery charging stations. Then there should be all PPEs and all protection equipments and protection devices available in the charging station. And those are listed. We can share you all those information to you later. And those are to be kept available in the charging room. So at time whenever it is required in the accidental condition, those should be available to use immediately. There should be a fire extinguisher in the charging area, which should be in the easy reach, so that you can reach to the fire extinguisher in the accidental area conditions. Batteries should have a good charging station, charging layout, chargers layout, and the battery layout. The batteries should be kept on a platform. Those should be not lying on the flooring. Even though if the batteries are not lying on the flooring, flooring should be acid proof. The reason for the acid proof flooring is that there are the chances that the spill out electrolyte can go on the flooring, and that flooring that can damage your flooring. So definitely your flooring should be acid proof. Chargers and batteries are to be kept such a way that whatever fumes are coming from the battery will not go into a charger and should not affect the charger internal electronic components. So you have to ensure that these fumes should never enter into a charger. Those are to be diverted through a proper ventilation to the external environment. So these are certain things which should take care, and it should have the charging room should have a sufficient yeah, electric supply which should charge the given number of batteries which are required to be charged in that charging room at a given time. So you have to calculate how much of the charger supply is required, and that much of the sufficient supply should be available for the charging room.
That's a great sum up, Amol. Amol, I must tell you that we have a very participative and a very attentive audience with us. So whenever we are answering some question, we are getting follow-up questions to get further clarity in that point. So
Okay.
when you spoke about the cooling period of the battery and you mentioned about the temperature, so we have got a follow-up question from one of the audience asking whether monitoring battery temperature of lead acid battery is necessary. So that is the question. And if yes, what is the battery surface temperature that you have, or do you need to monitor the electrolyte temperature? What is it that you monitor, and is
Yes.
it necessary to monitor, and how do you monitor?
Yeah, good question again. See, if we are monitoring a battery temperature, the external temperature is not a good temperature, because external temperature is actually coming out and then it is surfacing out. So we don't know exactly what is happening inside the battery. So surface temperature might be good, but the internal temperature might be high, and which can cause a issue to a battery. So definitely we will suggest that you have to monitor the temperature of electrolyte, and not on no, sorry, not an electrolyte, but the temperature within the cells. Within the cells means if the four cells are connected to each other, there will be a gap in between those four cells, and you can put a thermal sensor into that space, where it will measure internal temperature of a battery, and that is a good to measure, and that has to be maintained to a nominal value, which might be 25 degrees centigrade at time, but it is not possible to maintain 25 degree because the ambients are almost 30 degrees. So you have to maintain it at the ambient temperature.
Great. So the next question, rather there are two questions which are related to each other. Like one question is about battery regeneration. Okay, how do you regenerate a battery? And there is also a question about recyclability. So one is you spoke about the disposal of the battery after its useful life that you explained in your presentation. Now
Correct, yeah.
these questions are about recycling and regeneration. So what are your thoughts on that?
Good. Again, the audience is thinking about how the lead has to be disposed, and also lead has to be reused. So this is the good indication that audience is actually worried about the lead disposal. Here I would like to talk about the regeneration part first, and then the disposal part second. So in the regeneration, these lead acid batteries are possible to regenerate, because what we have seen that the capacity of the battery goes down because of certain reasons which we have discussed in our presentation also. That capacity will reduce down because of the lead sulfate deposition on the positive and negative plates. If this lead sulfate get deposited and become hard on the positive and negative plates, the capacity of the battery will definitely get reduced. So when the battery capacity reduces to 80%, that battery is of no more use in the application. So it is definitely required that sulfate which has been deposited on the positive and negative plates can be dissolved. So what are the techniques to dissolve these sulfates? Um, uh, there are certain techniques which are used to dissolve these sulfates. But at this instant, we can say that those are not yet proven. There are certain things which have been teams which are working on that, and definitely they are giving some results also. They are saying that the battery can be extended by about 25 to 30% of its life by doing this regeneration. Also, there are institutes which are saying that the battery can be regenerated to its 80% of life. And definitely this all can happen if you are using that particular technique. At this point, I can say that if you maintain your batteries properly, if you charge the batteries correctly, if you do the equalizing charging for your battery periodically, or if you do the enhanced charging, which is done by certain institutes on your battery, then your battery life will automatically get extended rather than going into a regeneration. So we suggest that you should put focus on the first part of it to maintain the battery appropriately, correctly, and charging it properly and applying it equalizing charge on a battery correctly. Your battery life will and cleanliness. Another thing, sorry, cleanliness is the fourth part where you have to maintain the battery clean and dry. If you do all these things, your battery life will definitely going to be extend, which will be a saving for you in your operational cost. So this is the first part. Second part is the disposal. At the end of life, batteries are to be disposed. So as per the government regulation, these batteries can't be disposed and can't be thrown into can't be disposed into a ground. It can't be thrown into a dustbin. So these batteries are to be recycled. So there are certain smelters which are listed in the government listed by the government, and those listed or registered smelters can take your battery and recover a lead from that battery, and that lead will again go back to battery manufacturing companies. And battery manufacturing companies are also having a regulations. They have to use recycled lead into the batteries. So this is a very good process which has been managed by government, and it is rigorously followed. Lead acid batteries are never thrown into a dustbin.
Okay, yeah, that was a very comprehensive and detailed answer, Amol. Thank you so much. A very interesting question has come up, Amol. One of the users says that I plan to use solar power for charging the battery. Will it be economical and viable? So will it actually, using solar power, will it have any impact on what battery or charger is selected, or any thoughts on that?
See, solar power means the solar cells are coming it's with own inverters. So the chargers which we are using might be not useful in that case. You will be having you can develop a very good system wherein the solar energy which is coming into a DC can be directly fed into a battery. And that is what being done at the storage systems where the solar energy is being generated. Whatever solar energy is being generated, it is transferred to batteries and it is stored in the batteries, because whenever energy is being generated by a solar cell, it might be not immediately used and it might be not immediately required to use. So it has to be stored at some area or some devices, and during a peak period where the peak demand is coming from the application, these batteries can be used to supply those peak loads. So this is the general practice being done, and in that type of application, these lead acid stationary cells are being used, and lead acid stationary cells are not different than a lead acid traction battery cells. So definitely you can charge your battery with the solar cells. The only thing you have to take care of that whatever energy is required for a battery to charge in a given time, means we are considering 8 to 11 hours or 12 hours, whatever that you are considering, during that time, whatever energy is required to be generated by the solar cells should be sufficient. So your solar panel should be a sufficient in number that the sufficient energy is available to charge the batteries. And the economics of this, we have never calculated that, but definitely this will eliminate your operational cost of the forklift. So the returns will be that the operational cost of the equipment will be zero. You will be using your equipments at a zero cost because all the energy which you are generating from the solars is being used for the battery charging. The only thing that you will require to have two batteries per equipment because one will remain on the charge and other will be on the truck for usage. And when the second battery goes for the charging for the on the this solar cells, the first one will go in the application.
Right. Thank
I
you,
hope,
Amol.
yeah, I hope I have answered this question.
No, no, yeah, comprehensively. I think we have time to take just one last question, looking at the time. So this question is that if various cells of new battery are getting damaged or burned repeatedly one by one after a certain interval of time, what can be the reason for this failure? I mean, this is just maybe a real life situation where that one of our user is facing. So he's just asking our viewpoint on this. So any thoughts on this?
See, there are two root causes for this kind of issues. See, battery cells are failing one after another. Means there is something wrong with the cells itself, or the cells which have been manufactured during that period of time. So it is very important to see what is the reason for the cell failure. Cell failure is it the failure due to the manufacturing defect or it is the external defect? And what is the external defect, or sorry, external cause? That if the batteries are being imposed or being affected or impacted by a high current discharge or high current charging. So you have to monitor both these conditions while charging, whether battery is being charged at the high current and whether the battery while discharging is discharging at the high current. So if you can monitor these things, you will come to know whether the battery is getting affected by the high discharge currents or high charging current. If nothing is happening, then definitely there will be a issue in relation to the battery battery manufacturing, and that has to be taken care by opening the battery fully and seeing what is going bad with the battery cells. So we need to go through a complete analysis, root cause analysis of the battery cell failure, and then come to a conclusion on root cause.
Okay, that's right, Amol. I think that was a good initial analysis to share. Unfortunately, there are many more questions, but we are not able to answer them because we have run out of time. But we will definitely get back to those people who have left behind their names and contact details along with questions with answers. So at this point, I would like to thank Amol for such a detailed uh, presentation on such a detailed subject in a very simple way, and I'm sure there will be many takeaways for the participants of this webinar. We have a very important announcement to make, that as I mentioned, that a battery and charger is such a subject that it is very difficult to cover in 1 hour. So we are going to have a part 2 of this webinar series, where we are going to talk about the new technologies in charging, as well as we are going to talk about the in thing, which is the lithium ion battery. So we'll be sharing the details of this event soon, and I think it will be a good connect with the part 1, wherein our audience will be able to get a complete overview of this subject in 2 sessions. Having said that, we are also going to share the PDF of this presentation along with a recording link for people who could not attend, or for people who would like to share it within their organization or with their colleagues. We are going to share the link, And just before we close, this is just a polite and a humble request to all the attendees to please fill up the feedback form and let us know uh, like about your points about the webinar that we have presented today and the topics that you would like us to cover in forthcoming sessions. With that, we come to a formal closure of this event, and thank you everybody for taking time out of your busy schedule and being a part of this event. Thank you and stay healthy. Bye.